pick some place that you are interested in, that you want to know more about, because you're going to spend a lot of time researching that location. So if you pick some place that isn't interesting to you, you're going to have a harder time with that.
That was Traci Douglas sharing her advice on how to choose the proper setting for your story. Stay tuned to hear more about Traci's journey as a writer on Pages and Voices. I'm your host, Meg Bell. We'll be back after the intro. Welcome to the Local Author Podcast, sponsored by the Allen County Public Library. This podcast is dedicated to featuring the works of talented authors within our community and highlighting their unique voices and perspectives. Today's author guest is Traci Douglas. Traci is a USA Today Bestselling romance author with an MFA in writing popular fiction from Seton Hill University. She writes sometimes funny, always emotional stories about strong, quirky, wounded characters overcoming adversity to find their forever person. She believes love is love and hopes to accomplish brave, beautiful things with her one wild and precious life. Welcome to the podcast, Traci.
Thank you.
We're going to begin with you sharing a reading from your March 2024 release, An ER Nurse to Redeem Him. But first, I'm going to tell our listeners a little bit about the book. Flying EMT Tate is the new guy in town, but he won't be staying long. Grief and guilt keep this ex-military medic on the move. Inadvertently becoming ER nurse Maddie's date to a charity auction should change nothing. But that's before Tate and the usually cautious in love Maddie share a toe-curling kiss. Is their unexpected connection the key to redeeming this haunted hero? Traci, take it away.
Tate Griffin jerked upright in bed, breath seizing in his chest as jagged lightning bolted across the sky. Sweating and trembling, he scrubbed his hands over his face, then shoved off the covers. The chilly night air, made chillier by the rare, raging mid-October nor'easter outside, cooled his heated skin. He fought the urge to fall back to sleep because if he did, he'd be right back there again, smack in the middle of the nightmare that had dogged him for 4 years now. But as he stared into the rain-lashed darkness, the memories returned anyway. "We can't get any lower," the pilot yelled as the UH-60 Blackhawk tilted precariously above the churning Indian Ocean. "It's too dangerous." 3 stranded airmen depended on his team to rescue them. "We can't leave them," Tate shouted back. "No one else will get here in time." 10 seconds later, lightning cracked and towering waves slashed the bottom of the helicopter, causing it to shake violently. Close, too close. A sharp blast of light, followed by intense heat and excruciating pain, then nothing. Tate stared over at his window as raindrops pelted the glass and forced himself to take a deep, shaky breath. He wasn't trapped in the burning wreckage of that downed chopper anymore, choking on seawater and the horrible knowledge he was the only survivor. He hadn't saved a single soul that night. In fact, his fateful decision to even go on the mission had cost the lives of his team as well. Back then, he'd been young and cocky. They all were. Tommy and Brad were pararescue like him, eager to save the world. Kelly was pararescue too, one of a small elite group of women to graduate from an Air Force Special Warfare pipeline, qualifying as an STO, Special Tactics Officer, by passing the grueling apprentice course at the service's Combat Control School at Pope Army Airfield. She'd done it in 2 attempts. It had taken Tate and the other guys at least 3. Kelly had been a force to be reckoned with, both on duty and off. She and Tate had even dated for a while. But in the end, they'd made better friends than lovers. He still missed her and the others on his crew every single day. Each time he boarded the helicopter at Wickford General, he said a silent prayer for them. Then another for himself, that maybe someday he could atone for his failures.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Now, I do want to mention, this is the first time that I've met you.
Yes.
So it's just very exciting to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I also want to say you have my dream job. When did you decide you wanted to be a romance novelist?
Wow. I don't think I actually ever decided to be a romance novelist. This is going to sound super cliche, but I actually had a dream back in 2011, and it wouldn't go away. It wouldn't leave my head. And finally, I'm like, this is going to drive me nuts. I have to get this out of my brain. So I wrote it down. And then I'm like, it's not half bad. So then I started doing some research on the internet and found a couple of romance writing groups because it was a romance. I was reading a lot of paranormal romance at the time.
Sure.
And so wrote that, spent about 6 months editing that, and then actually sold that. That was my first published book.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's seriously, like, how long so you had the dream.
Yeah.
And then you wrote the story down. How long did it take you to put the story down?
I wrote it in a month over Thanksgiving.
Okay, that's
in 2011. And
quick. That's very quick. And I'm impressed.
Hand wrote it on a legal pad.
Oh,
100,000 plus words.
Move there.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah. Won't ever do that again.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you joined some romance writing groups.
I did.
Were those local?
There actually isn't a group of Romance Writers of America in Fort Wayne. Well, there actually isn't a Romance Writers of America technically anymore at all.
Okay, I see.
But yeah, back then there isn't a local group. There is one in Indianapolis, so I would drive 2 hours to the meetings once a month in Indianapolis to go. And that was really helpful because it was a group of other romance writers at all different stages of their careers, from just starting out through really successful published authors. And just the advice and the education and the support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, was really helpful.
So they don't meet anymore, or they do still meet?
Well, there was a big there was a big blowout a couple of years ago with the national organization that had to do with a lot of accusations of inappropriate things that were happening behind the scenes to people that were on the board of directors and by people on the board of directors. And so the national organization kind of imploded.
Okay.
And what was left of it, a lot of the local organizations disenfranchised with it. So they just broke away from it, and they're just independent now, which is what the group in Indy is. They're still there. They just aren't associated with the national organization.
Okay. Got it.
So,
got it.
yeah.
So do you remember the first romance story you wrote? Had you written that prior to your dream? Had you written romance stories?
I wrote one story when I was like late teens, early 20s, and it was awful. So that book will never see the light of day. I mean, it was really bad.
You still have it?
I probably have it somewhere, the notebooks. It was just really, it was not appropriate, and it was just really, really bad. It was about a girl who attends an academy, and she ends up having an affair with her professor, and it was just really not good.
Sure.
So yeah.
So you're just going to keep that one in the hope chest.
That one is going to stay under the mattress forever. So
Got it. So we were talking earlier. We cut our teeth on romance novels. I started reading them at way too young an age. I read. And you mentioned you as well. We read the B.C. Andrews when we were young. Oh, yeah. I read a lot of Madeline Baker. I read a lot of Lavril Spencer, who I
love Lavril Spencer.
Yeah, I still have my favorites of hers in my books. Bedside.
Oh,
drawer.
That was like crack to me. Oh,
yeah, she was a beautiful writer.
Yes,
beautiful writer.
Yes,
I read a lot of Danielle Steele as well.
Yes, same.
So you also read a lot of romance?
Oh, I did. My first romance book was called Silver Angel by Joanna Lindsay. And we talked a little bit about this before, but the cover is what drew me to it because it had this woman with this long, huge, like flowing silver hair on the cover, and this, big beefy macho guy, and so I was drawn in by the cover, and then I stayed for the romance. So.
For the words.
Yes, for the words. Yeah.
So we had talked a little bit before about how the models, those male models on the front of those covers are actually real people. So is it the same? I'm okay. females, it's the same? Can you meet them at these romance expos or whatever?
Well, since romance, the readership is primarily female. It's primarily women. The female models aren't as popular.
Certainly. That makes sense.
There are a ton of male models, though, that do attend as part of the conference as talent, for people to meet and greet and get their picture taken. And a lot of these models have really made a name for themselves. Like, readers seek them out, and they buy books just because they're on the cover. They're like, oh, I got to get Mike's next book, or whatever. And there are photographers who specialize just in photography for book covers. And the photographers are also almost as famous as some of the authors. So they go to the conferences too, and people want to meet them and all of that. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a whole industry. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Now, I used to get a little embarrassed in high school by some of the covers, and I would flip them over if I took the book to school with me for like study hall.
Yeah.
So these days, I prefer the cover these days of a romance novel. They're far less bodice ripper.
Yeah. Well, and there's a whole movement now where a lot of authors, especially indie authors, are doing several versions of their books. So they'll have a cover that's steamier, and then they do a discrete cover that has a lot of times no people or anything on the cover. It's just like flowers or, a pretty color or a building or, something like that. For that reason, there's been a whole kind of revolution starting 70s, 80s and progressing on that kind of went alongside women's liberation that, it's kind of like, well, I'm going to read what I want to read and I don't really care what anybody thinks about it. But, sometimes you just, you can look at whatever you want when you're at home, but sometimes on the subway, you don't want to have this like heaving guy with no shirt on, grabbing some girls behind or something,
right,
you don't want that.
It's kind of, it draws attention. It
does draw attention.
I felt like people were looking at me like,
yes.
Look at what she's reading.
Yes.
I didn't like it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So was there a particular book or author that really inspired you?
Well, I will say when I first started out, I mentioned I was reading a lot of paranormal romance, and in particular, an author named Gina Showalter. She had written a series called Lords of the Underworld, and I was really into that series then. So that kind of, I think, inspired the dream that I had that turned into my first paranormal romance. But Joanna Lindsay, I read a lot of her. I read a lot of Danielle Steele. I did read some old Harlequins when I was growing up. They used to have a subscriber service where you could get those delivered every month. And so, I would read those and
Talk about some covers. Those old Harlequin covers.
Right?
They date themselves.
They do date themselves. Well, and, back in like the 70s and 80s, they still had a lot of the painted covers. And those are actually paintings. I mean, there were actually artists. There was an artist named Pino, I think is how you pronounce their name. And there's another one, John Paul. I can't remember his name, but he used to have a Facebook page. Gorgeous paintings.
I had no idea.
And then they would actually photograph those paintings, and those would become the book cover. Mm-hmm. So it was an actual painting artist who made
work
that.
Of art.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm learning all kinds of new things today.
There you go,
Traci.
Well, you're welcome. That's why I'm here.
That's right. I really didn't know, but you're right. Like if I think back, there's some really interesting covers out there, beautifully, like those swamp. I'm thinking of like the swampy, like the pirate ones. It seems like there was always like some sort of huge tree in the background and a water feature. And
a lot of times they would photograph the couple. So they would have a photograph of the couple, which they would then base the painting off of for that. But the rest of it was all the artist's imagination coming up with the background and all of that stuff. So,
I had no idea. All right.
Yeah.
So you got your MFA from Seton Hill in Pennsylvania. Is there a particular reason why you chose Seton Hill?
Absolutely. It is, if not the only, one of the only programs, creative writing programs in the country that specializes in genre fiction.
Okay.
A lot of creative writing programs kind of snub their nose at genre fiction. They're all literary fiction all the time, which is fine. I mean, that's fine. I'm
Right, but
happy for people to read what they want to read.
Sure.
But genre fiction,
This is very popular. People are looking
romance
for this.
is the number one selling genre fiction. We keep the lights on for everybody else in fiction. We always have. But
It's our number one circ, or it used to be the number one circ for our fiction collection.
Oh, yeah.
And reader services.
It outsells everything else by a large margin. I think mystery is second. Mystery and crime is second, and maybe sci-fi fantasy is third. But depending on like what's on TV, like when Game of Thrones fantasy got super popular
Yes.
again. But yeah, I mean, for years, romance has outsold everything else. But the reason that I chose Seton Hill was specifically because their concentration is genre fiction. So not just romance. They do horror, they do sci-fi, they do fantasy, they do mystery, any type of genre fiction. And it's really interesting because you learn not only about writing fiction, but you also learn about the history of it. And you study, kind of what came before in all of these different areas. And also then you're able to teach other people that because it's a terminal degree. But yeah, and the other thing that I really liked about it was it exposed me to so many other types of books that I wouldn't necessarily have read if it wasn't part of my program.
Sure.
Like I'm a huge wimp. And so I don't read a lot of horror.
Yeah.
But
Same.
I read some horror books there that absolutely, I love them. I would add them to my keeper shelf. Sci-fi, I didn't read a lot of sci-fi before I went through the program. So it was really very broadening and also affirming because genre fiction gets looked down upon a lot of times because it's very lowbrow, and it's, but it's what people want to read. So
Yeah. Well, I just always remember when I took some of those, those statewide tests you take in junior high.
Right.
When I was in the 7th grade, I was reading like a senior in high school. Yeah. And that was because I was reading romance novels.
Right.
So, I learned so much from reading romance.
Yes.
You can.
You can
You
learn
don't have to.
a lot.
You don't have to read Walt Whitman.
No.
Shakespeare to learn something.
Well, and I think people really want to see themselves in a book. I think that's part of the fun of reading is being able to immerse yourself in that experience, whatever that experience is. If it's a fantasy novel, if it's a sci-fi novel, if it's a romance novel, you want to be able to lose yourself in that experience. And sometimes you learn things in that experience too. It's like, oh, well, I never thought about dealing with that situation like that, but I guess maybe that is a viable option. You know?
Certainly.
I think that I think it was Neil Gaiman. He said, "Fiction tells the truth through lies," and I thought that was really profound because it's true. I mean, they're made up stories, but there's a lot of truth in them as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So now, okay, I just want to finish the Seton Hill conversation. Did you do that online or did you have to go there?
It's a hybrid program. So most of the classes are online, but then you have 2 residencies a year. So you have a winter residency and a summer residency.
I think that's pretty typical with those MFAs.
Yeah.
Bennington, I believe, does it like that too.
Yeah. And at first I was like, I don't know. But it was super beneficial to actually meet face to face because, and it was so much fun.
Because you got to meet with the other people in the program, correct?
You meet the other students in the program. You meet all the instructors. And if you've never been to Seton Hill University in Greensburg, seriously is Hogwarts for writers. It even looks like Hogwarts.
Oh, does it?
It
Now
sits
I
up
wanna
on top of
go.
a hill, and the buildings look like Hogwarts. And you walk in there, the dining hall looks like the dining hall. And I mean, they didn't. It was built way before
Did it
those
have
books
floating
ever came
candles
out,
in the
but
air?
It could. It had like these
Yeah.
chandeliers that, if you
Yeah.
looked at them just
Yeah.
right,
You
it
could
kind of
make
looked
yourself
like they were
believe.
floating.
Yeah. Gandalf.
It was
not
amazing.
was it Gandalf? No, Gandalf was in the other one, wasn't he?
Dumbledore. Yeah.
They too much alike.
Yeah.
So Dumbledore's at the head table.
There you go. But yeah, it was one of the most fantastic experiences of my life. So I highly recommend it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Good for you for doing that. So how long after you received your MFA before you got published?
My first published novel actually came out the same month that I started the program.
So that was the one you had the dream about?
Yes.
And that you put that out? Okay.
Yes.
So did you have an agent?
No, I got my first agent, I think about 6 months after that first book came out.
Okay.
Because I had sold to a smaller publisher, Crimson Romance. They're no longer in business. They were bought out by Simon & Schuster, but I had sold to them on my own. And then about 6 months, I'm thinking about 6 months later, I signed with my first agent.
Okay.
And I was with her for till I think 2017, so about 4 years, 2013 to 2017. And then we just it was an amicable situation. Sometimes you just have different views of the future, and so we had differing things like that. So we parted ways very amicably, and then I signed with my new agent, who is still my current agent, Jill Marshall at Marshall Lyon Literary Agency. I signed with her in, I think, 2019. Yeah.
So did you query those agents in the traditional way? Like, did you go?
Yeah, my first agent I did. I started querying agents at the same time that I started submitting the book to publishers myself directly, because I thought, well, you might as well canvas everything. Because it takes a long time. People think publishing happens really fast, but most things in publishing take a really long time.
That's what I've been learning.
Yes. And so, I mean, with indie publishing, you can kind of adjust that a little bit, but it still takes time. So yeah, I queried agents for about 3 months. And I had a couple of nibbles, but nothing panned out with that. At that time, paranormal romance was kind of on the downturn. So, a lot of traditional publishers weren't really looking for that.
Sure.
And Crimson was very innovative, and the editor-in-chief at that time was looking for things that were a little different. And so it was a good fit for that book. And like I said, I sold that on my own. And then
Can I ask what the title of that book was?
it was Seal of Destiny.
Seal of Destiny.
Yes.
Okay.
It is no longer available.
Okay.
I actually got the rights back to that book when Crimson closed. So I've just been kind of sitting on those for a while and plan to indie publish those myself. But that was the name of that one. And it was a planned 7-book series. It was kind of, it had to do with the apocalypse and the 7 seals of the apocalypse. And the seals were actually part of human DNA instead of an actual, thing that you break.
Oh.
And the heroes were like these immortal warriors that were sent to protect those humans that had that.
This is what your dream was about?
Yeah.
My dreams are never this fantastic. My dreams are, I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was like, and it was a really interesting idea. And I'm just like, wow. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm like, well, I have to stop thinking about it because it's interfering with my work. And, yeah.
Okay.
So.
Wow. So when did you start writing for the Harlequin? Okay, specifically you write for the Harlequin Medical?
Yeah, the Medicals line. Yeah.
And when did you start doing that?
My first book with Harlequin Medicals came out in September of 2018, I believe. I had, and I've been writing with them since. I think I have 17 or 18 books with the line now.
Did your agents connect you with Harlequin, or how did that work out?
Well, I actually, Harlequin runs these programs called blitzes for different lines that they have. And they usually run them a couple of times a year. And they're a really great opportunity for writers who are looking to get into Harlequin. Basically what they do, you write a synopsis of your story, and you write usually 1 to 3 chapters. And then you submit that, and it's put on a fast track to the editors. One of the things that takes a super long time when you're a new writer and you've not been published and you're trying to get in the door with a publisher is sitting in what's called the slush pile, which is where all these unsolicited manuscripts come in that aren't agented, and they just kind of sit in a stack until an intern has time to read them. And that can take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to never, depending on how busy the publisher is. But a blitz eliminates that. So you send that in, it goes directly to an editor. So you're going to get read and get feedback on that regardless of whether they want it. And that feedback is gold, because getting feedback from a Big 5 publisher editor, they're going to tell you things that it may not be things that you want to hear, but they're going to tell you things that you need to hear about your book if you're looking to get traditionally published. And so they had run one of these blitzes in 2016, and I'm like, well, I hadn't really thought about writing medical romance, but it was an opportunity to get in front of an editor. I'm like, yeah,
sure,
send something in, So I did, and I actually heard back right away from the editor, and the submission that I had was completely inappropriate for the line. I did not follow the very good advice of make sure you read a lot in the line before you submit to know what they're looking for. I didn't follow that advice because it was a spur of the moment thing. So I had written about a paramedic who was a drug addict, and he had, all of these things. It was very Grey's Anatomy, and but not in a good way. And so the editor sent me back a really nice email. Actually, the next morning, I had turned it in late that Sunday night, and the next morning I woke up to an email from her, and she's like, thank you so much for your submission. I had an opportunity to read it. It really isn't what the line is looking for at this time. And they're in the UK, so they're all British, so they're very, very polite. And it was a very polite way to say, this really sucks. And, but she's like, but I really enjoyed your writing. So if you would like to kind of rework this and then resubmit to me, I would love to read it. So I'm like, okay. And
that's a good feeling. That's very promising.
I was really excited about that, because I should preface this by saying I didn't write for almost 3 years. I had 2 books that came out with Crimson Romance in 2013. I self-published a book in that same series also in 2013 in October, but my mother had passed away that June. And it was really devastating for me. I was her sole caretaker, and it just really drained everything out of me.
Yeah.
And I lost the writing mojo for about 3 years. So I didn't write anything for 3 years. And then I had an idea and entered another contest for a smaller publisher named Thule Publishing. And they liked it was another paranormal romance trilogy, and they liked that so much. I didn't win the contest, but they ended up offering me a contract anyway. So that got me back into that, and that was around 2015, 2016. So I had that, but I hadn't really reached my goals in publishing, which was to get in with a big 5 publisher. I was really focused on traditional publishing. So anyway, so when this came up, I'm like, well, I'm going to try it. And so, yeah, so going back to the whole everything takes longer in publishing, I went back and forth with that editor for almost a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I would send her, I'd send her the first 3 chapters. She'd send me back feedback. I rework them. I'd send it back to her. And then she'd be like, okay, this is good. Send me the next 3 chapters. So then I'd send her 6 chapters and she would give me notes. And so we went back and forth like that. And then the end of 2017, she left Harlequin.
Oh,
She got a different job.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, oh.
What do I do now?
Right, after all this work. But she was so very kind, and she's like, I don't want you to worry. I've actually, the senior editor for the line has all of your information. She knows about your book. You are not going to fall through the cracks. And in December of that year is when I got the call from Harlequin, and they offered me a 2-book contract on that story. So it had a happy ending, but that was a big like, oh, moment when she left, because so many times editors come and go a lot in traditional publishing because they're very overworked and very underpaid. So a lot of times when an editor leaves, it's easy to fall through the cracks, especially if you're not under contract.
Right.
And so I was very blessed to have had her to work with, and she took very good care of me.
I was going to say, that sounds like a learning experience for...
It really was. It was great. It was so great. Yeah.
So does Harlequin tell you what to write? Are you able, do you have a choice in the whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, they give you guidelines. They'll say, these are the types of things we're interested in right now and seeing more of. These things, we have a lot of this, or it's not selling well, so we're buying less of this, but we'd like to see more of this. But overall, it's your decision what you want to write about. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So now the book I have here that I read by you, How to Seduce a Bad Boy, this was released by Entangled Publishing in 2020. Mm-hmm. So do you currently write for both Harlequin and Entangled?
I do.
Because... Am I correct? Fourth Wing, that really popular book by Rebecca Yarros, is out by Entangled. So these are both prestigious publishing houses. I mean, that must be like that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Thanks.
How'd you get connected with Entangled?
That was through my first agent. She knew an editor there, and the editor actually had an idea for kind of just a very kind of amorphous idea for a story, just very, very bare bones. And she was looking for a writer to take that on. And so we worked with her, and she's like, she picked me, and I'm like, okay.
Awesome.
So then we worked together, and I added some of my touches, like the Indiana setting and all of that. And
Okay.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this book.
Good.
It is set around Indy. It's cozy romance. Some steam, but not too much steam for those who prefer a lighter love scene. So where did you just said? But where did the main idea for the story come from? Somebody told you what it was?
Well, it was just very basically what she gave me was, I want a story about a girl who wants to lose her virginity with and so she's trying to find a way to do that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that's basically what I got. So then I'm like, okay. So we kind of fleshed it out a little bit and added the idea of her having this kind of ongoing crush on her older brother's best friend, who is the hero in this book. And then
who's tall and
of course. And he rides a motorcycle. Yeah. He is like the epitome of the bad boy. And she's obviously very she's the good girl.
She's a librarian.
She's a librarian. She that book has a lot of humor in it. And
yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I enjoy a small town setting. In fact, the book that I read from, In the Hour Nurse to Redeem Him, this too has small town setting. And that's one of the things I enjoy about medicals is it kind of has a small town setting even when it's in a big city because it's all kind of within a hospital or a contained environment. But yeah, I just wanted to, I hadn't set a book in Indiana before, and I thought, well, that would be fun to kind of, you don't see a lot of books set in Indiana.
you don't.
And I thought, I want to shout out my hometown from where I'm from. So I took a little bit of Fort Wayne. I took a little bit of Grable, a little bit of Auburn, a little bit of all of these different little small towns that you find in Indiana.
That's interesting. I'm thinking back.
And kind of you put that in there. There used to be a diner in, I can't remember now. Was it Warsaw maybe? I think it was called Boxers. I'm not sure. But the diner in the book is based on that because I ate in it one time and it was so cool because it was like a 50s diner. And it had like these silver walls. It was shaped like a bullet, like a big like Airstream trailer.
Well, Warsaw had the place called, was it Shoop's?
Maybe it was Shoop's.
It was there on the corner, and now I think it's like a Moe's. Like they took the whole thing. Like it's complete. It's such a bummer that it's gone.
It's a bummer.
Yeah. It had a really great vibe.
Yeah.
Like
and I just kind of
joint
picked and chose all of these different little things that I loved about where I grew up and kind of put them all into one like single town of Point Beacon. So yeah.
All right. So how, like, I always wonder this about any novelist I read. How do you name your characters? Like, I mean, it seems like such a simple thing, but you want to get it right. You want the name to fit the person.
Some characters come to me with a name. Like, I'll be thinking about them and they'll just be like, this is my name, and that's just who I am. But other times I'll have to assign them a name. Depending on the type of story it is, like a paranormal story or a fantasy or sci-fi story, especially, I want the name to have a meaning. And even with these, with my regular contemporary romances, I like names that have meanings. So I do a lot of research on baby naming sites.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a good source for names, and you can also find the meanings and all of that stuff. So I like to do that. And also, I just, the one thing that I have to be careful of is that sometimes I get stuck in a letter. I went through a phase where like everybody had an M name. So I had Matt and Mark and Mike and Michelle and Megan and all of these M names. And usually my editors are very good about being like, hey, didn't you have a character named, with an M name in the last book? Or they're usually pretty good about that.
That is attention to detail right there.
Yes. And thank God for that because, otherwise every character would have an A name or an M name.
I'd be calling them different things.
Right?
I mean, seriously. Like Tate would be Nate like halfway through the book, and then I'd be like, wait a minute.
That has happened before where like halfway through like their name changed and the editor would be like, wasn't his name Bob before? And I'd be like, oops. Yeah.
I got caught up in the story.
Yes, it happens, but yeah.
Okay. So. Okay. I'm not alone in that then.
No, not at all.
So any tips on picking the location? I know the How to Seduce a Bad Boy, you said, hometown vibe, Indiana, but where are your other books all set in the same spot or lots of different places?
No. The new series that I'm working on, the Wickford General Hospital series, is in a fictional small town in Massachusetts, about an hour away from Boston. But all of my books take place in different areas. I have the first couple of books that I did with medicals took place in Anchorage, Alaska. I've had books set in Key West. I've had books set
I like that. Exotic.
Yeah, just different places. My advice is to picking a location is pick some place that you are interested in, that you want to know more about, because you're going to spend a lot of time researching that location. So if you pick some place that isn't interesting to you, you're going to have a harder time with that.
Yeah.
And I think readers can kind of pick up on that if an author is really excited and kind of interested and enthused about what they're writing about. But yeah, it's really fun. And it's kind of fun to create a place, like create your own town, because then
Mm-hmm.
you have free reign. You don't have to stick to, things, because you will get readers who, if you are writing, I
Oh,
did a Christmas story that came out last year, that was in Boston. It was a continuity with 3 other writers, and they'll call you out if you
tell
get
you
something
that
wrong,
that's
like,
not.
yeah, you said
Mm-hmm.
that this was like 3 blocks away from this, and that's not right. It's 5 miles from here, or you know they will call you out, and they
Oh
they
my
have no
goodness.
problem writing to you to tell you that. So um
Well,
yeah.
I hope they put a happy thought in
Yeah,
there
so that's
alongside your.
why that's why I say, if you're picking an actual place, make sure that it's someplace that you like, or you have been, or you're very interested in, because you will need to research that, because readers are very into the details.
Particular.
Yes.
If it's their hometown,
Yes.
I
Oh,
assume.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're very nice about it, but they will point it out. They'll say, well, some of these things weren't really accurate, or whatever. So, yeah.
Well, then you write a story and put it your way.
Well,
Make it the way you want to sound.
I always thank them, and
Yeah, and keep going.
once the book is out, there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm
Right.
sorry that happened. It was, a misunderstanding. And
Well, but it's
done.
a fictional tale, and
Yes.
so not everything. It's fiction.
Right. It is
It's made
fiction.
up.
Yes.
And when you create a world, it's like you
Yes.
can make that
But
world however you
even
want.
though it's made up, people still take that very seriously.
Yes, it sounds
Yes.
like it.
Yes.
So, do you have any go-to resources writers should be aware of when crafting a romance novel?
Probably one of the most helpful books that I recommend to people all the time is called Romancing the Beat. It's by Gwen Hayes.
Okay.
And it is based off of Blake Snyder's Save the Cat kind of beat sheet
Okay.
thing, but it's specifically for romance. And it really breaks it down in a very understandable and usable way, how to make sure that you hit all of the beats in the story that you need to for a satisfying romance for a reader. And it's especially helpful for new romance writers, because a lot of times one of the big problems with new romance writers is they want to take things too easy on their characters. So, they like their characters. They want them to get their happily ever after. So it's just like a smooth sailing. Like, they meet, they kiss, and boom, they're happily ever after, and they're getting married.
there's
There's no problems.
bumps in the
There's
road.
no, that doesn't necessarily make for a good story. So,
Right.
so it's very, very helpful. So I always recommend that. And the other one is called GMC, Goal Motivation Conflict, by Deborah Dixon. It's an older book, but it's a standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So, do you have a kryptonite as a writer?
My kryptonite are timelines. I'm horrible with timelines. If you read a first draft of my book, everything pretty much happens in 24 hours, because I just cannot wrap my brain around time in a story. And my editors are always, that's one of the things they're always telling me, is that everything's happening in one day. You have to space this out. So then I'll go through.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And so then, I'll go through it, and every chapter is like, on this day, this happened. On this day, this happened. On this day, this happened. The next day. And they're like, no, this is not going to work either. So that is my kryptonite. And no matter how hard because I really do try.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I
sure.
make spreadsheets. I do everything. And I'm like, I got it this time. This time I have it. And I'll send it in to my editor, and she'll be like, this is great, but everything happens in a week. And I'm like,
I tried. I thought I didn't do it this time.
So luckily my editors have been very patient with me up to this point, and I don't know why it is. I am dyslexic, so I don't know if that has something to do with it, but yeah, when I get
You're just
into
excited for your characters.
I guess.
You wanna-
I don't know.
wanna-
I just, when I'm writing, it's like watching a movie in my head. And so, when you're watching a movie, you're not really paying that much attention to the timeline. You're just watching the movie, and things are happening.
That's right.
And so as I'm writing down what I'm seeing in my head, I think that's part of the problem because I'm just like, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. But yeah, it usually needs to be more than a week.
I guess I've never really paid attention now that you mentioned that. I mean, when I read this one, I wasn't thinking about how much time was passing.
Right. And that's the way it should be. I mean, readers shouldn't really notice that, but if you don't do it correctly, they will notice.
Is there a length of time that you really should be aiming for on a romance novel with a couple?
Not necessarily. And a lot of it has to do with the length of the book, too. Like for the medical romances, the goal is 50,000 words, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. So it's better to have a limited time frame, like maybe a month at most, maybe a couple weeks, because 50,000 words really isn't a lot. But if you have a single title romance, which can be 80 to 90,000 words, well, then you have almost twice that much. So then you can kind of spread it out a little more. And you can include more secondary characters, more locations, things like that. But in 50,000 words, it needs to be very concise and consolidated.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your writing process like? You mentioned you have deadlines for Harlequin. So do you write every single day?
Yeah. I treat it like a 9-to-5 job. So I'm a full-time writer. I also do some editing and things like that. So I write every single day. I usually have a word count for the day. Like I'll try to do like 1,500, 2,000 words a day. That'll give me plenty of time to get the book done and then do a revision pass on it before I send it in to my editor for her to look at. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you also write romance under the pen name, I want to say this right, T.S. is, you say the last name.
Ankney.
I was going to say that, but I was like, I'm going to get it wrong. So you are very busy.
I am very busy. Yeah.
So you just write all the time? I mean, you take weekends off?
I try to, like I said, do a 9-to-5 job. So Monday through Friday, and then take the weekends off. Cause I also do some design work. I do website design and,
oh my goodness.
Do like branding logos for other authors. So, I like to do that. That's actually relaxing for me. So I like to do that on the weekends. Yeah. So I try and do the writing Monday through Friday and then take the weekends off for other stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So now I have some fun questions.
Okay.
Which of your books would you like most to be made into a movie?
Oh God. Probably the Christmas book that came out last year.
And that was part with two other authors, you said?
3 other authors. And that takes place in Boston
Okay.
around Christmas time, Christmas through New Year's. And it was just really fun. There were a lot of fun scenes in Boston. I tried to use a lot of events that they have in Boston. And it was a very diverse book. So my hero was Jewish and my heroine was autistic. So adult diagnosed autistic. So it was just a really fun, interesting book to write with really fun, interesting, diverse characters. And I think that would make a really fun movie.
Absolutely.
So.
Okay, this question wasn't on my list, but I have to ask real quick. Do you ever travel to the places that you've written about?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I like that. That would be...
Sometimes I wish I could travel everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Same.
My books were, but yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. So who would star in your Christmas movie?
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I love Ryan Reynolds. He is just like my perfect
Who doesn't?
man.
He's so fun and
he
funny
is
too.
so
They have such a
fun.
great sense of humor, he and his wife.
And then my heroine would have to be someone with long red hair. And I can't think of an actress with long red hair at the moment.
Maybe
but-
like Emma Stone or something.
Ooh, Emma
She
Stone
has
would be
reddish
good.
hair. It's not super long at the time.
Yeah, Emma Stone
Well,
would be
maybe
good.
it could be his wife, Blake Lively, because she has red hair occasionally. Like, you know,
Maybe.
she's usually blonde, but sometimes she has red.
Huh.
It'd be fun if they were in a
That
movie
would be
together.
fun. There you go.
And then you could meet them.
Wouldn't that be fun? Like go to the movie set and
You'd have to take the local librarian, Meg, with you.
we could do that. I could take a whole like posse with me to the movie set.
Everybody wants
that
to
would
meet
be
Ryan
so
Reynolds.
much fun. Oh, I would love to meet him. I just think he's a hoot. I just love him. So,
Yeah, he does have a really good sense of humor. Every time I watch The Proposal,
He really does. He's just so smart and snappy and
The way
Just
he
good.
delivers a line is really good.
Yes.
So if you could invite 3 people to dinner, who would it be? Any 3 people.
Any 3 people. Oh, wow. Martha Wells. She's my absolute favorite sci-fi author. I am absolutely obsessed with the Murderbot Diaries. KJ Charles. She is an romance author who I just adore. And Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Might as well. You
Might as well, right?
Get a lot of laughs in. That's for sure. I like it.
Okay.
If you could be mentored by one famous author, who would you pick?
Martha Wells, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you read the Murderbot Diaries?
I haven't.
They are fantastic. Oh, you have got to read them.
All right, I'm
they
putting it on my
are
list.
absolutely. And I am not normally a sci-fi reader, but I'm telling everybody I know to read these books because they are absolutely
It's
tremendous.
called The
Murderbot Diaries.
Bot.
Yes.
B-O-T.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I just read this past year, it was by Andy Weir, I think is how you say his last name. I read Project Hail Mary.
Oh, I haven't read that yet.
Science fiction is not normally my genre. And I loved it. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, that's on
over
my
my
TBR.
head some, but
right.
really good.
Because he wrote The Martian too.
Yes,
and that was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the same. It's very it's super relatable. It takes place in space, obviously, but it is super relatable. I've never met another character that I related to so much. And this is not even a human character. So.
I know. That's what I liked so much about Project Hail Mary was Rocky the Martian.
Oh, it's fantastic. I recommend them to everybody.
Okay. So. All right. I've got it on my list.
Cool.
What is your favorite book?
My favorite book. It's actually a romance. It's by Lisa Kleypas. It is called Devil in Winter. It is a historical romance. And it's just the best book ever. I reread it every single year. That book, and then also if I can have 2.
Yes.
It's so hard to pick just one.
It's hard to pick just one.
It's called Under the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune.
Okay.
And it is... That's my favorite. It has
a really interesting cover, right?
It's got an illustrated cover.
His books, I think there's another book of his that has a really beautiful illustrated cover.
Yeah. And it is just the most comforting read ever. I've read it like 4 times.
Is that romance or is it?
No, it's there is a romance in it. I would say it's fantasy, but it's not like the swords and sorcerers fantasy. It's like it takes place in an alternate world, and it's very comforting. There's a lot of it's kind of misfits finding their place, and it's just really, really good. It's hard to describe, but it's just really, really good. So I recommend that one to everybody too.
Okay. So, I like it.
Yeah.
So last but not least, how can fans reach you?
If you go to my website, which is tracidouglassbooks.com, you can find all of my socials there. There's a link to sign up for my newsletter. You can find my TikTok there, which I'm horrible at posting on TikTok.
I started following your TikTok today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fun. It's just super time consuming, and it's easy to fall down that rabbit hole. And so that I don't get anything else done. But just go to my website. You can find tracidouglassbooks.com. That is TraciDouglassBooks.com.
Thank you, Traci, for joining us on Pages and Voices. It's been a real treat to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely.
And thank you to those who listened in. Stay tuned for more authors on Pages and Voices. I'm your host, Meg Bell. Until next time. I'm Meg Bell, your host of the ACPL Local Author Podcast, brought to you by the Allen County Public Library. If you enjoyed this podcast, please show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with your friends and family. Your support means everything to us.